Good morning. The animals have left, and that is how the paddock A18 looks now. So there's a lot of trampled things, but many of the brassicas are still standing, and that should provide a little bit of shade, and the grasses in between certainly will re-emerge. But of course it would be nicer if all the material would have been trampled, but that is hard to achieve with this low number of animals. And of course bunching up would be another option, but then that creates also a lot of chaos. So we need to see what we do. What we certainly cannot do, because there's so many other things, that we come in here and cut the brassicas manually. I still assume, and we will see very soon, that they will eventually eat the brassicas as well, but we will have to see how that goes. And if all else fails before the summer heat starts in, then we may cut things, but that is to be seen. Down here it looks a little bit different. There are less brassicas, so it is more like you would expect. Some of the seed heads are still there. They kind of know that they should not eat the grasses that are going to seed. They know, thinking about the future. And to give you some reference, that is along the driveway in front of this paddock. So this is how it looks like, where they could not reach and graze this off. And by the way, welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroches Valley of Andalusia, Spain. Now we are doing some strip grazing here. Let's have a closer look how that goes.
Pero sin que,
sin la retro.
This one got damaged by an invading cow and now has several chunks. They are not all of the same size, but it doesn't really matter, because their purpose for being here is just to provide additional biomass. And by biomass I mean first the leaves, and later on those on the bottom of the berm will be cut and used for something, and we might even turn them into wood chips. I believe it was a good idea to continue making our own rain by pumping water from the outflow of the water reservoir up here. That way, all this area stays moist, because we never disconnect the water source. Juan has been seeding like this for decades, and it definitely shows. Just watch how the arm moves while he walks. It is in the same rhythm as he makes the steps. This seed is quite of interesting origin. It is originally from Thailand, but a US company sells it. I don't know how it came to Spain, via the US or directly from Thailand, but it definitely is not from around here. We picked these plants thanks to a suggestion by one of you, and I believe it makes a lot of sense in our situation because it develops a deep taproot and also a lot of biomass. Supposedly it can grow up to 1.8 meters tall, and it is forage for the bovine family. So that is multi-purpose and should help us to improve the soil and at the same time provide forage for the summer. Now Angel wants to learn how to do this himself. Some of you might remember that this berm stayed without plants for more than a year since it was dug. Then we seeded the broad beans on top, and now we also see volunteer plants establishing themselves on the slopes.
¿Cómo que queda? Queda ese entero y queda otro aquí. Ese y ese son los que quedan.
Let's have a look at this area here, where we started to seed into straw. Looks good so far. I will now go in and show a few details. So this is the stand that we got. That is from the seed mix. The rye in the trench is coming up well. Some of it is already producing the grain head, or the seed head, but it's a grain. So this is looking good. The patches are at different stages of development, but every little plant counts, so that is very good. Over there, this is a little bit more ahead. So all in all, this has vastly improved. It's a combination of the animal impact and the straw and the new seeds that we distributed. why this is now looking more like pasture. And we let this continue to develop itself, and when everything has gone to seed and is then dry, we will then bring in the animals to add a little bit more manure, take away what is still standing to avoid a fire hazard, and then the cycle starts again in autumn, and by then we should have more seeds in the ground, so that it might come back even better next year.
Yeah. Lo podemos poner. La metí a dar muy fuerte, yo gritando. Mira de para adelante, ¿no? Quieto ahí, Juan, quieto, espérate.
The mules are back to bury the seed that was brought out yesterday. We want to extend the pipe a little bit so that the water can be pumped from the outflow of the water reservoir into the pond of the swale in order to saturate the other part of CT2.
Pisa la goma. Ahora ya Estefan.
¿Me tendrás que ayudar ahora a cargar la grada alguno? Que eso pesa. Ahora cuando lo desenganche me echáis una mano.
Nosotros vamos a ir por fuera porque ya hemos acabado también.
Entonces hemos terminado, ¿verdad?
Hemos terminado la vez. Hemos que irnos para arriba hasta...
So this has now all been seeded with two different types of plants. One is the Crotalaria hunkea, the sun hemp, and the other above the swale is Sudan grass, and we only used one seed, but I believe it's not a monoculture because the seed bank seems to be full the same way as it was in that zone down there. We expected this to be a desert, but look like it came up. So the intervention of the pigs created an opportunity, and now all this seed germinated, and we have a lot of new forage that wasn't there before. So I expect the same thing to happen here. So what we have is, we have the natural grasses and other forage plants that are already in the form of seed in the soil, and now we added 2 other types on top of that, and this should give us some forage for the upcoming summer. And the sky is getting darker and darker, so there will be a thunderstorm soon, and then this gets wet and has now the perfect situation to germinate. And there is a little bit more rain, always thunderstorms in the forecast, and at the same time we are maintaining the swale as full as possible, so that over there we have some sort of underground irrigation. We also planned to extend our water line so that it comes all the way up to here in the front, so that we can also let some water flow downhill in order to maintain this. In any case, when we start grazing the plants that soon will then show up, the grazing starts over here, and so we move inwards, and that means the plants that probably receive less water are the first to be grazed. That should work out pretty good, but let's see how it holds up. Those dark clouds left us with some rain. Maybe there will be some more. According to the forecast, there will be a lot of heavy rain. Maybe I should turn around and see what's coming. So over there is more dark sky, and supposedly something big is coming our way. This was nice. We will see. In here we have the sheep, and as I can see, they have some work left to do, so it's not yet time to move them. So this will just stay the way it is. And you can see that we have a lot of seed heads here. This is the wannabe food forest, so it is not so important that we have a lot of seed in here, because we don't want this to be pasture. But of course the plants like it, and so they are making seed. And someone might say, yeah, maybe you could harvest the seed and bring it elsewhere. Yes, but that is one of those details that we get to when everything else is under control. So it is probably several years out that we can dedicate time to something like that. There are so many things to do, and that is just a little bit impractical at the time being. It is much easier to buy seed from someone who has a dedicated operation on retrieving seed. So happy that these plants are making seed, and in a paddock they will certainly be able to distribute the seed and help us. But here in this particular situation, maybe that is not what we should be looking for. But still, it's nice that they are there, and it's part of nature's cycle. As we want to be very strict this time with our wait time for the grasses to regrow, we have ordered another truck of straw so that we can bridge the time between grazing sessions. Due to the increased fuel prices, This load of straw is now 960 euro. It is about 200 euro more than it used to be last year. And of course, Rafael has to spend a lot more money for the fuel, and also the producers, the farmers down in the Cordoba region, the southern part, have more costs because of their tractors consuming diesel, and the fertilizer is a little bit more expensive and all these things. So this makes it a 200 euro up hike in the price for the straw.
Tu hija escuela aquí, ¿no?
He's asking about school.
La escuela tú, ¿no? Efectivamente.
When the sheep are not confined to the wannabe food forest, they also help grazing here. But for the time being, this is mostly the horses. We will soon bring the bovine family in here into the uncharted parts of Zone B. This is going to be a pig paradise, but as we had a little bit of delays and more important things and more urgent things to do, this will have to wait for autumn. That was it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come back in a few days, and till then, take care. Bye bye.